Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. If you are new, and welcome back if you are not. Let's jump right into Aqua Life 3. I um, I did things a little backward, but not on purpose. I if you follow me, you may know this that we had a recent move last year and a lot of difficulties with some other personal things. And we're just getting back into it. And all this time, I thought Aqua Life 2 had been published. And I was wrong. So you were long awaiting part 2 and part 3. If you were watching and following my stuff. So sorry about that, and they'll both be up real soon. Obviously, if you're watching this when the part 2 will be up. What you're seeing me do now is uh, cutting a sea sponge, a little part of a sea sponge. Um, you don't have to have that for this soap. It's just a little touch I like to add. I will leave a link to my supplier for these sea sponges. I can't speak highly enough of her. Her name is Tracy, and I can't think of the shop's name, but I will definitely link it. She really, they have uh, great quality sponges, plus they're ethically farmed. So they're not harming the environment. They're not taking the whole sea sea sponge out of the ocean. They just get a part of it that can then regrow, and they're very careful about that, and don't over farm. Anyway, very very wonderful family that runs this business, and um, I it seems weird to be cutting a sponge with scissors, but it works just fine. And when you cut, if you use them in soaps and you cut with a knife or with a soap cutter like Uncle Andy's, it cuts right through them like butter. I mean, if it's sharp enough to cut the soap, anyway, it should be certainly sharp enough to cut the sponge. Um, I love using sponges and soap for many reasons. This isn't going to add that much of an exfoliation effect because it's a tiny part of the soap. Um, it just looks cool, and I think it's kind of neat to put an actual sea sponge in the soap, just like what I put in this oatmeal, Crafter's Choice oatmeal base. Pretty sure this is a detergent-free one. That's what I usually have on hand for that base. And what I added to it is a little bit of sea clay, which is why you see me stirring and mushing kind of furiously, because sea, well, any kind of clay, you have to kind of mush in like you would a pigment, or you get a lot of little clumps and spots in your soap. Um, and now I'm adding some apricot seed powder. You see that I'm hoping you can tell perspectively that that's a very tiny little cup. Those are the little cups I got at Mad Micah's. Yes, I am an affiliate, and my link will be in the description box. But that's again, that's not why I use them or promote them. They're a fabulous company. Those little silicone cups can also be purchased on Amazon, other places, without the little logo on it. But um, these cups hold about 3 point, I think it's 3.4 ounces, and they're, so you're not looking to pour whole soaps with these. They're great for pouring off or creating small amounts of color to use for soaps where you have kind of a lot of intricate stuff going on. And I will talk just a little bit about heating soap in these. Um, you can certainly heat soap in these. You can also pour from another vessel in and have your colorant already mixed in and just pour a little clear or a little oatmeal or whatever base if you have a larger pitcher of soap that you're using. Um, but you can heat in these. You just have to be extremely careful, 5 seconds at a time. I know I've said it in a recent video, but I'll try to say it every time I use these, because people so frequently overheat their soap. And that is one of the quickest ways to overheat your soap, is to overheat it, or is to try to microwave a very tiny amount. Um, you can't do it in 30-second increments. You're going to have boiled soap, and that doesn't stay soap. It alters the makeup of it, and it just becomes something different. So 5 seconds at a time, I promise you, it'll get, even if you have to do that 3 times in a row, it's better than trying to put it in for 15 seconds and having it totally annihilate your project. So just a little at a time. This one, I used sea clay to kind of, well, also following the theme, it's just Aqua Life. It's a kind of going for a sea floor, a seabed look with this. Whereas the Aqua Life 2 is more of an aquarium. This one, I wanted it to look a little bit more like it was on the floor of the sea. So that's another reason I used the sponges. It's just for the look of it, really. But it's kind of cool to incorporate some things actually from the sea. So sea clay and a sea sponge. That's about it. But it kind of is, it's fun, I think. The fragrance I'm using for this, also going with the theme, is Sea Minerals. I think this one is from Aztec. Um, and it stayed pretty good. I don't think it really discolored anything at all. At all, at least in this soap, I'm pretty sure it stayed pretty true to how it how you see it at the end. Um, the part that you saw me do at the very beginning using the ZENICOLOR, um, I, in my opinion, I put and I'm this does not make the soap bad. It was a beautiful soap. It is a beautiful soap. Came out really cool. But I always look for ways to improve. This soap ends up being super thick, huge chunk of soap. And I think that's because I poured too much of the soap I colored with ZENICOLOR. It's hard in a tall mold like this to see the bottom, um, and really get a good perspective on it and how much you're pouring in there. Um, and I usually do these kinds of landscape soaps in my wider molds that I think they're only half-inch wider, but still it makes a difference. You can see a little bit more. The light is allowed into it a little better. This one is taller and narrower. So, um, and you'll see I'll show you a little trick I use so I can see, but it was a little bit late on the ZENICOLOR. I poured a bit. It didn't ruin the soap, but something, if you don't have ZENICOLOR, I will put a link in it, but it isn't always guaranteed to be able to find this colorant. It's a colorant that stays very clear in melt and pour soap. It colors it like almost like a liquid colorant does, but it does not bleed. It's gorgeous. It's really beautiful. It melts in quite easily. It's great to work with, but it is hard to find. So, my thing with it is I probably should have used less soap and a little more colorant. The soaps that you see at the top, which were my Aqua Life 2, those came out kind of the way I wanted it to, a little bit darker. I wanted it to have some blue in there. Now, why didn't I just put blue in the whole thing? Because then it colors the embeds that you're putting in there, and I did not want that. I wanted the embeds to pop and be true to the colors that I made them, which of course are available um, in Aqua Life 1. I talk a little bit more about and show the colorants that I've used, and there's links to them. So all I'm doing here, turning it on its side, is getting a little bit of that layer of the oatmeal to only be on the side, which when you cut these up, that becomes the bottom of your soap. So I just wanted a little, there's my seabed, there's the sand. And again, I always make my sand with oatmeal soap. Sometimes I add colloidal oatmeal. If I don't have oatmeal soap, I'll add it to a base. And apricot seed powder for a little exfoliation, and it looks cool. Looks like little grains of sand. And then again, this time I used the sea clay. I also usually put, and I didn't mention it when I was doing it because I was too busy gabbing, but I do usually put a little bit of sunshine sparkle. Sometimes more than others, depending on the look I want. I wanted this to be a little sparkly. I don't know how much it shows up on camera in the final product, but you can certainly see it when you're looking at it in person. A little glitz never hurt anyone, or at least never hurt me. I'm a fan. But an alternative to using ZENICOLOR is using clear soap and adding the teensiest, tiniest bit of mica. Um, if you use the color that you want to get, like a nice light, if you want to use a light aqua color, don't. If you want to get a light aqua color, use a bright, deeper aqua color. Um, if you know Mad Mica's colorants, like let's say you want the look of sea glass, that color is a very beautiful pastel aqua. Don't use that. You're going to have to use too much for the color to show up, and then it's not clear anymore. If you want it to be clear anyway, you could go certainly with an opaque background um, or translucent with this. It would be just fine. I wanted the light to shine through, so that's why I used the ZENICOLOR. But I could have taken a little bit of Key West blue um, and put that in clear as well, just a tiny bit, enough to kind of tint it, and you'll get a similar effect. If you want to check that out and see how I do that, I do that in my stained glass video that where I talk a lot about colorants, micas, and liquid dyes and various other colorants. So you can check that out for a little bit better of a demo on that. Um, but right now, I'm starting to layer my embeds, and I create this like a picture from the back forward. So that's why I did the blue at the back so they don't color my embeds. And then I did kind of my base. So I have you want your taller things to the back for the most part because you don't want to cover up all your little fishies and things like that. So I like to put something taller at the back that looks like a big sea plant or a coral or something like that to kind of ground everything. And that's why the sea sponges went in at that layer. And now I'm adding my larger or taller um, little embeds, which in my case are the seahorses. So I usually try to get those, the tall ones, to the back. And then sometimes I'll put the little ones a little more forward because the mold I have has a little mama and a baby, or a daddy and a baby. And that's what you see me doing here, is just kind of working in my layers of little fishies. Um, I do lay these out first, kind of how I think I'm going to use them. About 50% or more of the time, I end up changing mid soap what I was doing, but at least it gives me something to go by, gives me a thought. I don't like to put too many of the same color family together because then things kind of get hidden, and nothing stands out on its own. It's hard to see if they're all the same color. Like if I put all the same color seahorse and fish and background all in the same soap, it just kind of all gets lost. So I try to mix up the color families so that you can see each individual piece, even if something else is partially in front of it, which sometimes happens. And I actually like that look if you can still see the item behind. Um, you'll see later I actually cut a fish in half and put one on each end because it just adds to the look of that picture going on. So you have a lot of things going on. You're going to have a fish swim in front of another fish. You're going to have things, perfectly laid out can be a little tricky sometimes, and not always as artistic. So occasionally you'll see me offset something or layer, cover over it. Like I'm pretty sure I put some stuff in front of the sea sponges. You can still see that it's a sea sponge, but it's a sea sponge with a fish swimming in front of it now. But basically work tall to shorter in the um, in the order of things. I think in one or two of these put a pair of fish. I like to get a pair of fish in each one of these, of the bigger ones that I'm doing, the ones that are the ocean floor. The little aquarium ones look fine with one fish. If it's Well, even if it's just a small fish, it just looks cool with one because it looks like a little fish bowl. But um, but these I like to do a pair in each if I can, kind of swimming at each other or away from each other or something. That's my personal preference. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever you like. Hopefully, you'll see in a minute here. I pull out a little light, and I give you a fair warning first because it's bright and it gets a little flashy. It's just for a couple of seconds, um, and it's not overbearing. I don't think it's going to cause anyone to have issues, but I warn you anyway. But I did this the whole process, the whole way along. I only showed you twice. I show you once so you can kind of see and I get an idea of what's in there so far. Even though you've watched me put them in there, you may not remember because I didn't remember when I was going. So I'd check. I'd pull out my little light and I'd aim it in there and I'd see, okay, where are things? Do I need more on this side? What am I doing? It helps you to see where you've been, what you've done. As you can kind of see here, I'm layering by pouring a very little bit of soap. Um, and it works as long as you keep your soap at a decent pouring temperature. You don't want it too hot, you don't want it too cool. For this one, around 130, maybe a little bit less, depending. But I'm pouring small amounts of soap, so it doesn't matter that much. You also notice I spray after I pour that soap. If you spray with alcohol before you pour your soap or the top layer of the soap, if you don't cover those embeds with soap, you're going to disperse the mica that's been painted on them. That's if you're painting the fish and little sea creatures with mica. Um, Always get it covered with soap first, whether it's you dunk it far enough in that it gets soap covering it or that you pour a little more over top and then spritz. Why am I pouring out of the jug sideways? I have no clue. I don't know. That's not something I usually do. It just kind of, sometimes you just go with the flow. And I didn't even realize that I was doing that until I came back to watch and edit this video. And then I had to ask myself, Terry, why are you doing that? And I didn't have an answer. So, okay, so there's the warning for the bright light. I hope you can kind of get an idea of how I'm placing these and how I hope you can see a little bit how visually I'm choosing different color families within each soap. How do I know what's in each soap? I've got markings. See the little I just used a Sharpie and I measured it and divided it in 3 and put a little mark on the side. Um, Unless you're spraying furiously with a lot of alcohol on the top of that, you're not going to get the ink in your soap. Um, the soap doesn't come up that high. Came up way higher than I expected it to, but it doesn't come up that high. And you shouldn't really be spraying that part anyway. You're spraying the soap. So anyway, that's how I see what my piece is going to be like. You can kind of get a little image of, oh, this fish is in this soap. This fish is in that soap. This fish is halfway in this soap and halfway in the other. And that looks cool too. Don't be afraid to cut things in half. I know a lot of people may not believe me on that, but it's a neat look. Um, as long as you're not cutting them all in half. And as long as the half lines up with the edge of your soap. It looks kind of neat. Let's see what else we have here. These take me forever. I don't know if you can notice that as you're watching this, that my hand goes to pick up a soap, changes my mind, goes to get a different one. I think I'm going to place it here and I move it. I'm so second guessing myself at every turn. And I don't think that's going to change very much. Um, that's just who I am. I have a basic idea, but then I'm like, oh no, wait, this one would be better over here. Or no, I wanted to add this one at the top to the top layer. I don't know. So you see me do a lot of that, and I'm sorry that you have to witness all of that. It was too in and out to kind of edit it out, but it also lets you see what I do when I'm soaping. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. Um, you don't have to work as hard as I do for it. Um, That's just kind of the way I do things. You could make it much simpler design if you wanted to. But I encourage you to play and try with adding a bunch of different types of embeds like this. It's fun. And you if you're looking as you go at the placement, you learn. You learn to get things placed where you like them. It is always better if you can place it where you like it first. You do see me like this one. Yeah, this guy was upside down when I dropped him in. It flipped over. So I had to flip it with a little stick there. And that happens occasionally. Is as long as you do it right away and your soap isn't already setting up, you're good. That's why I keep pouring little bits of clear over that top and keep it at a fairly warm temperature, because it prevents a film from forming on the top. And if the film does form, you're kind of adding more liquid to it. That way, every time you add an embed, you want it to be still liquid. It helps to avoid bubbles. It helps to avoid um, weird looks and lack of control. I just pulled out a little bit of a skin that or the little tiny layers that form on the top right there, because it was getting in my way and I didn't want it to look clumpy, and I didn't want it to prevent me from getting an embedding correctly. So that's always possible too, is to remove. Oh, here's where I remove. Oh no, I'm moving my fishy back. My little half fishy didn't want to stick. He was moving out. So I just kept going back and pushing him up until he stuck to the side. That's what that was about. These little teensy tiny embeds, if you did not watch Aqua Life 1, watch it. They are very tricky to work with, but give it a try anyway. And, it yields beautiful results. And once you get used to it, it's a little bit easier. I have a couple of different tricks for working with teeny tiny embeds like that. And I did not necessarily do that in this one. Um, Definitely not in this video, but there are some tips, I believe, in Aqua Life 1 about getting intricate, detailed, delicate embeds out. Uh, and there's also in my Flurries soap video, there's a trick like that. And that one looks like, well, it has snowflakes on the design. So hopefully you can find that one. I know that's not the exact title, but it is my Flurries soap. And this, I'm putting the light on again so that you can kind of see what I did. That was just a little bit, kind of a sneak preview of the finished product. You'll see me struggle here because this kind of mold, the sides can kind of sink in. So I rolled back a little bit of tape. You could use double stick tape if you want, and just kind of taped it to the sides of the wooden holder there. And that kept it from bending in on me while I was soaping. Mostly. I kept having to push it up, but it didn't alter the shape of the soap, which is what I was hoping to prevent. Sometimes those can bow inward a little bit if you're not careful, but a little bit of double stick tape will pretty much hold it out of the way, because that's a solid rectangle there. It's not squished in the middle. I measure, I cut. I should have, and maybe I did on the one side, kind of come down and emulated those little marks I made and just replicated that with my knife. That would have been the smart thing to do. Maybe I just needed to mark them a little better and why I measured. I don't know. But there's your full block. I kind of like the look of it that way before I start cutting. I love, I don't know, the look of the whole thing. It's like a picture of a coral reef or something. I had to get out my little cutting board because I didn't want to cut through my silicone mat. Sometimes I forget about that, and sometimes you have to push harder when your table isn't level. I do have a solution for that. For those of you who watch me, I frequently struggle with that. But I have to film a whole video with that solution, and I haven't done it yet. I'm catching up though. We're going to have one weekly video, one video a week from here out. Unless, barring unforeseen circumstances, but we're getting way ahead and really excited about that. So this, it only made 3 soaps. This is what it did. It's a lot of work for 3 soaps. You could double your effort in making your embeds and make a bunch of extra embeds. I always make more embeds than I think I need, and I usually end up using most of them. But if you made extra, you could do 2 at once because it's pretty easy to pour one layer and then go to the next one and pour another. You just have to double up how much you're using. And how much you're using depends on the size of your mold and how thick you want them, which you probably don't want them as thick as I made them here. But I thought they turned out pretty cool. What do you think about the colors? Can you see what I mean about not having all of the same color family? Let me know in the comments if you've ever done something where it's so much in the same color family that it blends in. Like I even think here somewhat blended in the back right half, um, to where it looks a little like you're unsure of what's there. I might have changed that up a little had I noticed that. But it still looks cool. I love the stripy fish really stand out nicely because that blue and that yellow is very striking and contrasting no matter what else is around it. So even in a full yellow soap, I'm sure that would stand out. But these are, I'm hoping everything matches up here with what I'm saying and what you're seeing because this is kind of a different program I'm using. But I am thrilled that you came by to see these. I know it's been a long wait for those of you who have been around my channel for a while. I hope it was worth the wait for you. I really, truly appreciate you spending your time with me. And also let me know in the comments what you think about my new little um, picture effect here. See what, hopefully it's slow enough that it doesn't make you seasick. But just having to use a different software, so I'm changing up what I'm doing a little bit. And so far, I'm really liking it and enjoying it. Thank you all so much for coming by. And I hope to see you next week, every week. I hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.